Welcome in, welcome in. It's the Black Man Unfiltered Network. It's the one and one sports show. I am Dante,
What's up, everybody? I'm Shawnee.
and so we're gonna get right into it this week. I mean, we touched on it a little last week about everybody's bracket being busted. I can actually say, one of my teams did make it to the Final Four, and that was Kansas. But we're gonna start off tonight talking about like what I think I'm a game I'm really excited for is North Carolina and Duke. Everybody knows all the the swan song we've been giving Coach K for his final season, rightfully so. 42 years in, what is this? His 13th Final Four, and North Carolina and Duke have never played each other in the in the NCAA tournament, and now you're playing in the national semifinal. So I know those fan bases this week, like whoever wins is gonna be ecstatic, but whoever loses, that's bragging rights forever.
Yeah. I didn't know this was the first time they was going to meet. This the actually time they meet in March Madness. So once I heard that, I was like, if I imagine how the last home game for Coach K was, just multiply that. So I was listening to the Keyshawn J. Will Max show this morning, and J. Will was talking about how again all the Duke alums were going to be there. So you can just imagine how big this game be. It's not the championship game, but it probably be bigger than the championship game. Um, but I was hoping, I was actually hoping for, and I think they still will ultimately end up playing each other. I was hoping for U of H to make it there. I was really hoping for
Yeah.
U of H to make it. Um, almost remind me of my Rockets, how they just went super cold from three, but they was getting good looks. It was
Yeah,
getting good looks, and the shots that was falling in the previous round, it was just not falling against Villanova.
at
From
all.
open threes to layups, rolling around the rim and not going in, missing free throws. So I was hoping U of H could make it to the Final Four. But yeah, this UNC Duke game is going to be a big one. I'm definitely going to tune in. Um,
Yeah, they were one
what
for 20 from three.
1 for 20? Yeah.
You,
Now
it, I,
the last two threes, they was just chunking it up just to, I
yeah,
guess, make the score better. But yeah, they just went super cold in that game. I did not know. It's one thing just chunk up threes, but they was getting them in the rhythm of the offense and getting open looks and just still missing it. So, and the fact that they held Villanova to under 30% shooting that entire game and still lost. I'm like, yeah, that's a bad loss right there.
that's a tough break statistically. I mean, you just don't see that happening like that. But what I will say is like it was interesting for me like to see North Carolina and what happened. I thought the pinnacle of their season, and it kind of that's the give and take of sports. The pinnacle of their season would have been okay. We knocked off Coach K. Y'all got all them dudes, and like I follow what's his name, Jesse Holly, and he was just like he showed Coach Dean Smith final game because they always end the season against
Hmm.
Duke in North Carolina, and so he showed Dean Smith won, Roy Williams won last year, and then he had Coach K with an L. And it was like, so they was going in. And I'm like, that's the perfect way to end it. Hubert Davis, didn't get the respect at the end. They didn't want to shake his hand. All them alums there. And then for them to get that second shot, because I heard it. What his name is the guy that's gonna be a lottery pick from Duke, Paulo
Hmm.
Banchero. He was just like, who do you want? And before he could finish the season, before he could finish it, North Carolina. That's who they wanted in the ACC tournament. And I think they were so on edge to get them that when they got Virginia Tech, I think they was just like, yeah, when we whatever seed we get is cool, but they wasn't worried about that game. And so for them to, I'm worried about Duke being too like, oh yeah, we got to win this week for Coach K. Whereas the other side is like North Carolina is caught fire. Like for my bracket, I
Yeah, they
knew they were
caught
doing
fire.
good. I didn't think they were gonna beat Baylor. I didn't have them getting past Baylor. But for once they beat Baylor, I was like, you know what? They really can do something because once you knock out a one, then everybody you facing, and then evidently what you got. And no disrespect to St. Peter's, but when you get to that, it's like, bro, that's what happens when
Yeah,
David beats Goliath.
that game was clearly a mismatch. St.
It,
Peter's, they couldn't make their shots in the beginning of the game, and then just the size differential just took over the rest of the game. They was just getting beat on the outside, and UNC they wasn't missing no shots. I was like, but what showed me about UNC was in that game against Baylor. So you remember they had like a nice
yeah,
lead, and Baylor just fought back.
Yeah.
And when Baylor forced overtime, I was thinking, okay, the momentum switch just changed right there. I thought it was for Baylor, but UNC kept their composure, made that initial three like right at the beginning of overtime.
Yeah.
And took it on from there. So they went through the fire during that game, and you could just see they just carried that momentum, that confidence from that game against Baylor onto the next two games up until the Final Four. So, like you say, they just caught fire, and I think that game right there showed a lot. Because what are they, the 8 seed? They probably were just thinking
Yeah.
this was going to be maybe make it to the second round compared to, like you say, how they was playing in the regular season.
Yeah.
But nah, I think that game against Baylor, that's what really just they just rolled that confidence and they just knew they belonged.
Because once you get to that Sweet 16, if you're a legitimate team with enough talent, that means that you're a legitimate title contender. And then you get a few that sneak through like the St. Peter's, and everybody's happy for them. And I'm happy because like it's like a little bitty, they did the profile. It's a small program. They don't put a lot of money in the school. And I didn't realize that Shaheen Holloway was All-American. So that came out, and he actually is going to his alma mater with Seton Hall. And that's the biggest thing to do in college sports. Don't stay with that school too long. When the bag comes, make sure it's big enough, make sure the job is good enough, and you take it and go. There's been so many coaches that don't capitalize on the March Madness run, and they stay there, and then it's like, bro, you're going to get stuck. You're going to get stuck and closer to getting fired. So I'm glad for Coach Holloway and, everything they was doing. And I was telling my little brother, because, he played AAU ball. So, man, I'm rooting for them. I was like, bro, I'm telling you, when it gets to a point where it's just like the little team is going, it's like they're going to run up against somebody with a lot of talent. And it's just they don't have it. I mean, you wasn't built for that. And it's and I know I was looking at the rebounding edge. They out rebounded St. Peter's by like 14, and that's what they do.
Yeah, they size took over. They size just took over.
I mean, he's a monster on the boards, and then they got that Manning kid, and it's gonna be an interesting matchup because you gotta. I won't say you totally throw the regular season out the way, but the emotion of that last game in Cameron Indoor, that's kind of one where it's just like, this is a national semifinal. So you're going to feel that. But at the same time, I think some of the familiarity with it being a common opponent, I think that's going to help them prepare for the game.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised if the winner of that game wins it all. But Kansas, who I picked to win it all, I mean, they strong. They still strong, and they got Villanova, and they've been a thorn in their side. So I don't know. I'm just glad CBS did it right. That's the late game. I'm going to catch some of Villanova and Kansas, but I'm going to try to have everything set up and settled in by that second game.
Yeah, that Villanova-Kansas game, it's getting no pub.
Yeah,
everybody just talking about the UNC dude. That Villanova-Kansas game, it's just
it's crazy. But since we talking about basketball, I know you put it in the pre-show thing. Now, I wanted to talk about the total standings. We don't have to talk about just the misery of the Lakers because that's my team. We don't have to talk about just that, how they fell to 11th. The Spurs jumped them.
Yeah, they even out the play-in contention right now. They just out of there right now.
They out of there, and it's kind of like, and I heard this somewhere else. I was listening to, I think I was listening to Bomani Jones, and he was just like, damn, we kind of focusing on what's going on with the Nets before the COVID thing, focusing on the Lakers in this horrible season. And it's almost like we're out of insults to say about the season, but it's just like now to see them completely drop out. LeBron was at least having those scoring runs and keeping them alive. And then there was the dangling carrot of, hey, Anthony Davis, like it's almost April. He's close to being back, but then the playoffs is going to come and, and it's kind of like, dang. And then at the same time, you have the MVP race, and you have teams shaping up. And I think I'm looking at the standings now. The Celtics earlier this week they had taken over the number one spot in the East.
Yeah, they kind of rotating right now.
Now it's back to the Heat, and so you literally looking at. I mean, the Nets jump back into the 8 seed, but it's like they're teeter-totter, and they're going to be in that 7-8 game against Cleveland. So I think they win that one, and I think they're going to end up being 7th. But it's just like, I don't know if they want to off the bat, go into it and have to face Milwaukee. I don't think that's a recipe for them getting put out of the playoffs. And
so So speaking of that Eastern Conference in the playoffs, one storyline that I don't really know if too much people has been paying attention to. But real quick though, I see some folks joining us on the show. Appreciate y'all for joining. But one storyline that I haven't heard too much, but I heard it again on KJ and Max is the Raptors. Now, it's not about them as basketball related, because currently they're in the 6th seed, and they just basically an average team for the most part, just going to make the playoffs. But they not when you think of the Raptors, you don't think of a championship threat. But what's interesting about the Raptors is, of course, they're in Canada. Canada got that whole COVID rule thing going on where if you're not vaccinated, they basically just want to let you in. So the whole year, Kyrie, his story has been getting the most attention. But Boston, if you remember, Boston just played Toronto up in Canada a couple of days ago, I think this past weekend. And I believe they went to double overtime. But the big names didn't play. I think Jaylen Brown, I think somebody was already injured. And I think it may have been, I don't know if it was Brown or I forgot.
Talking about Tatum?
No, Tatum was out. Tatum was out, but Tatum wasn't
Smart
injured.
Played.
Big man, I just forgot his name. Name just
Horford?
Yeah, Horford. I think Horford maybe had a legit little injury, I think, between him and Brown. But Tatum wasn't injured. And you remember Tatum at the beginning of the season, he already stated he's not vaccinated. So a reporter asked a Boston Celtic representative, hey, as of now, are you confident that basically, if your team plays Toronto in the playoffs, will your whole roster be available? They gave no comment.
They couldn't. Because right now, that's the 3-6 matchup. That's the 3-6.
Yeah.
So at home, you would have Boston playing them. And the thing about Toronto is, and that's why I don't consider Boston a legitimate championship threat. Any of the title contenders, you should be able to beat Toronto, even though they have a coach that has won a championship, and you got, a few players around left from that team that know what it's like in pressure moments in the playoffs, namely Pascal Siakam and Fred VanVleet. Those two guys. So I'm just saying, not to say that they're anything, I'm giving them their props, but Boston, if they were to have a situation where Tatum can't go, and I would see it's a situation as you can't make, like I've said before, you can't make anybody get the vaccine. You don't want to get into that as a players union, making someone put it into their body. And that's why I took the stands, and I fully understood where Kyrie was coming from by not wanting to do it. But I also was from the standpoint is he's second in command in his union. He knew the complication. He knew what it was. I felt like it wasn't the biggest story that it needed to be. But but I feel like in the situation with Boston, that's a team that they couldn't have it without Tatum is the end all be all for their offense, and that's why I can't pick them to win. So they need him. They need him. They need him in a major way. So I know this is also the time, and I know people talk about tanking, but this is the time where you jockey to either you get a matchup to want to face a team, or you make sure you're winning, so you run away from a team. So I can see Boston trying to make sure that, hey, let's move up to the 2. Let's move up to the 2, because if you look at Toronto, they're 43-32. They are just barely behind the 5 seed. Yeah. So it's like depending on how things move up and I want to touch, and I don't want to like crap on the Bulls. And I like what they've done. I think that's a team that didn't continue.
They're a good team. They're a good team. They just can't beat nobody bigger than them.
They made a free agent. What did they make that move for Nikola Vucevic? They made that trade, at the previous deadline to make a play, and then they made a splash in the summer. So I give them their props. But for the people that was just like, man, DeRozan, the MVP candidate, you've kind of seen that them regress to the mean and come back to the pack. And it's kind of like in the league, that's why the Memphis story is so big. Normally you don't see from Memphis fighting with the Jazz first year. They were fighting for a spot in the playoffs, in the play-in. Then they actually beat the Warriors in the play-in. And I was like, whoa, this is something serious. Now they're the 2 seed. That's surprising for them to have maintained the 2 out west this long. And what normally happens is what happened in Chicago. And it's props to them because even if they get to the playoffs, lose a tough series or win a series, you making progress. And I think more owners should take that approach instead of tanking. But moving over to the West, basically everything except for, I want to say the top seed is locked up. Phoenix has just ran away with it. But
yeah, Phoenix will run away with it.
Memphis looks like I don't think it's enough games for them to lose the 2 seed unless they go on a skid. But Golden State at the 3 seed is definitely in jeopardy. They're only a game up on the Mavericks. And so Stephen Curry's injury.
The Mavericks, they playing good ball. Now the Warriors are just that X factor team as far as they can take down the Suns, but they got to be healthy.
They got to be healthy for
sure. They've been injured for the most of the year, especially the second half of the year. So you don't know what shape they're going to come into the playoffs. So if some miracle everybody can be on the court, because then you got to still, they still got to get their chemistry and all back when they get everybody back on the court. And unfortunately, that looks like it may not happen until the playoffs. So it's basically like trial by fire, basically for them right now. While the Suns and Grizzlies, probably the 2 most impressive thing that both teams did is when they lost their star player for a nice chunk of the season, them boys didn't miss a beat.
Yeah.
Especially Memphis. And then Phoenix is the same thing. Phoenix, of course, because they still have their main scorer, but Chris Paul, he definitely the engine that makes that goal. But yeah, Booker, he's gonna do his thing. He's always gonna do his thing. But with Memphis, they're not a team full of stars. They've got a team full of just young studs.
Yeah.
And then it's Ja. But Ja missed a nice little chunk recently, and they haven't missed a beat. And they have an impressive home record and an impressive away record. So they're gonna give you a challenge, whether they're gonna come to you or you come to their house. They're gonna give you a good challenge. So that's what I saw in both the top 2 seeds in the West, that they shown that even without their top guns, they are still extremely competitive. Now with the Warriors, they missing too much. I think Wiseman, I think he's out.
He's not coming back.
Season. Yeah. So it depends on when Curry can come back, if he hasn't come back already. But Green finally, he's been back for a little bit now. So he's getting back into that basketball shape on the court and whatnot. So if they can gel, since the benefit they have, because they already been playing with each other for several years. So I'm pretty sure as soon as they get on the court, chemistry is going to be, it's going to be there. It's just going to depend on the rotation.
Yeah, it's going to be. But they got to see how they tighten up that rotation, because I like Jonathan Kuminga. I like seeing him play, and I liked it that I like it because I know guys are like, and they're big on this, and I don't know why it's surprising, and everybody does the Jordan LeBron and other things comparison, but it's just like they do the they're not scared of LeBron. They're not. I say, bro, if you don't realize that young dudes, all these dudes are the best guys that a lot of people in their life have ever seen, so they have the confidence to come at guys. So like, they coming at him, but also the same on the flip side. The next time they played, LeBron dropped 56 on him, and Kuminga was, basically when he was getting torched. And it's it's one of those deals where like, yeah, you can come at the old head, but also remember they're gonna come at you too. And I was looking at the West standings as far as the young Grizzlies. They going up against the Timberwolves. If they were to win the 7-8 play-in and end up staying as the 7, that's a series they can win. Especially if Ja's healthy, that's a series they can win. The Mavericks are like I said it before, they're the biggest wild card, because it's like if they get the right if there's certain matchups they probably would struggle with, but mainly one of the top ones is Phoenix. But as of right now, if they're the 4 or 5, they wouldn't have to see them to the second round. If they move up to the 3, you're not facing Phoenix until the Western Conference Finals, and at that point, all bets are off. But probably the MVP of the league is probably gonna be Jokic again. It's probably gonna be Joker again.
Yeah.
And it's like because they're in the mountain time zone, they kind of like the coverage of them, they get it like their own games. But I'm a person that I'll watch the West Coast game and I'll be up late. But a lot of people are like, man, once that East Coast game is off, they catch it maybe that first quarter, that first game, and then they out. So it's one of those deals to where he's not getting it, and then also, the Euro bias is still there for sure. So it's one of those deals. Whoa. Wow.
We'll get to it. It'll be we are making what's that the podcast pivot. We'll make a pivot over there when the time comes. But yeah, it just came on my phone. So
yeah. So but keeping on track with this MVP race. I wanted Embiid to get it bad. I did. I wanted him to get it, but it's one of those deals to where I have a beef with. I think they've always lied to us with the MVP. They never have a direct meaning. And I'll say there's been players that have had prolific seasons, and then their prolific seasons were like, hey, you're too low in the West. And then sometimes they want to put too much of a story to it. And everybody wants to crap on Westbrook now. He has the MVP. You can't take it away. But a lot of people felt that Harden should have gotten it, but they felt Russ got it because of the MVPs. I mean,
during that time, Harden, that's when he was, doing this thing with the Rockets.
Yeah.
It was okay. So
when they the 2 seed?
Yeah, it was a 2 seed. They was a 1 seed for a little bit. I think there was a 1. I think they was a 1 or 2. Cause that was when Chris Paul?
It might have been the year before Chris Paul got there.
Yeah, I think it was. I got to remember the season, but they were higher. They was no lower than the 3 seed. I know that. But it was first. It was Harden and Steph. Steph won that MVP from the 2015 season.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, Steph back-to-back MVPs. At that time, it was always, when it came to the NBA MVPs, best player on the best team.
Yep.
So you couldn't be like, okay, because I believe Harden's stats, especially the second year that Steph won, Harden's stats was able to go blow for blow with Steph's. But that best player on the best team, that kind of went out. And the next season, I believe, is when Russ won. Because that's when Russell had that average triple-double the first time since Oscar Robertson. But the Thunder at the time were a 6 seed. The Rockets, like I said, that was like a top 3. Harden still put up elite numbers, but Westbrook won the award because he averaged a triple-double. So Harden was like, okay, I'm a best player on the better team.
Yeah.
That's what you told me last time. Because I think Harden had better stats and more impressive stats than Steph that one season. But they say, you're not the best player on the best team. So when Harden had a chance against Russ, all of a sudden now they went stats instead of the best player on the better team. So that's what, and then finally Harden won it the next season. My whole thing about during that whole stretch, especially as a Rockets fan, it just felt like Rockets fans was just more. It was like they was just more into Harden getting the MVP award. I'm like, man, that was during that whole stretch was supposed to be the Rockets championship window.
Yeah,
I won a championship, the MVP award. Okay, that's just bragging rights, I guess, for the fan base. But
it's for the legacy of the player.
Yeah,
and because sometimes people are very like, when someone passes away, people are very affectionate to it, softer with their words. But a lot of things, if you want to be critical about Kobe's career, you can say, well, he only got one MVP, and that's one of the things. And then they say the one he got should have been Chris Paul's. Like, I was trying to pull up the win shares. If you look it up, even going back to the 70s, the player that led the league in win shares won the MVP only except for a few different times. And one of the times was when Kobe won it. And I want to say, don't quote me, it might have been the time where Russ won it and not Harden. And there's only been a few instances. But it's like now I'm not mad at it shifting from best player on the best team, because the last few years have been pandemic years. So it's been players that have been, he's out for COVID and the protocols. So it's been a lot of reasons and things being different. I just want people to realize, like, hey, Jokic is a baller. Like, as a player, I like Embiid over Jokic, but I cannot deny, like, I like bigs, in general, as far as them being able to be the center of the offense and also, and be center of the defense. And Jokic has stepped his game up on the defensive end. So I had no problem with him winning back-to-back. I mean, you can make an argument. It's an MVP. It's a regular season award, but you can put Giannis in there too. But Vegas right now has Joker as the one, Embiid as the two. And, I think Giannis is third, but it's kind of like you're going to be validated by what you do in the playoffs. So it's like Jokic, he's got an uphill battle as far as he has, and that's another reason he's going to win it. He hasn't had his top guys. He has not had his top guys there.
I thought they would be back by now, but
yeah. I mean, but with Michael Porter Jr., that's a bad thing, and he's been having that. But
I think he was having that. They were talking about that when he got drafted, right?
Yes, but that's why he dropped. And a team like the Nuggets, who's not going to get a major key free agent. And speaking of which, they got to make sure that they can keep Jokic because his free agency is coming up. I think next summer.
They're going to let him go nowhere.
I mean, they've been flirting about that in the Mavs, but the Mavs further talk about a lot of people and never get them. So it's just whispers until I see real stuff. But I mean, I don't know if they don't make it in the playoffs this year, I think it's one of those deals to where it would definitely making it possible for it to be like, you know what, I can't really win here. Maybe I got to go somewhere else. And, it's interesting to me because the last time that happened, everybody called Giannis stupid and he proved them crazy. Like them people that was calling him stupid, we can't find them. We ain't got no recordings magically, but it's just like he stayed home and won the chip, and it's like the very thing y'all want. But I know the NBA has to work with the viewership and converting them from we'll talk about the trades and stuff all day long, but the actual games. But I think it comes with having a good playoffs with. I can't see how if we can't get the Bucks. I guess the only bad thing is if we get the Bucks and the Nets in the first round, that's a big dog out the way already. And then you gotta kind of hope that you get the Suns Warriors later on because the side on the East might be unbalanced. But they gotta hope for it because the NBA is all about the players, but also the market shares that make it. And so you do get like Milwaukee is a dud on the market, but you got Giannis and say what you want every other commercial. I mean, he's doing his thing. But he's becoming the face. Yeah.
Like he started making his name in the playoffs.
Yeah.
That's what happened to Trae Young. He's got to do one more time, but Trae Young is making his name in how he performed last year in the playoffs.
And I respect
so,
him.
Yeah.
I wasn't a believer. I wasn't a believer because I'm not big. I'm big on putting. If you're gonna put a comp on somebody, I think it needs to be a realistic comp, and it needs to be okay. This is the floor. This is the ceiling of what he could be, and this is the floor. I'm a floor ceiling person to let me know I'm more of a okay. He can be a X amount of time All-Star, or if he's gonna be excellent. Hey, that's a future Hall of Famer. I'm more so of that. But when they kept saying Steph Curry, and I was like, bro, I don't see it. And another reason I've never, when I watched them, hey, bro. Steph don't really hunt for fouls like that. Steph will play off the ball. This man be committing insurance fraud, and I'm glad they changed the rules. I'm glad he had changed his game, so you can't say, "Hey, I'm not just a guy that hunts fouls." And actually, his shooting percentage, he's still a hot and cold shooter, but overall, his stats look pretty solid as far as his shooting percentages. But they're a team that they need something else because they're another team that's teetering around the play-in. Yeah, they're at the 10th spot. And it's just like, dang, what? I thought they were going to take this momentum and go, but that's the Hawks for you. And it's just like, I'm hoping that they can kind of push through and at least get in there and make it interesting. I would like to see them versus Miami in the 8th seed. I really would. I don't know if Cleveland is going to make it in. Because on the play-in, I think it will be the 9-10. It will be Charlotte and Atlanta.
But currently Cleveland is 7.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying I don't see Cleveland beating the Nets. I see the Nets taking over the 7th spot, and then if you lose 7-8, then you play the 8 winner plays the winner of 9 and 10. So I can see them falling out. And for excitement, like Trae Young doing the bow and what he did to the Knicks, I want that. Like he drove the Knicks crazy.
Yeah, he's the new Reggie Miller.
Yeah, I want it. I want that. But we talked a lot of hoops. Well, we was gonna talk and immediately transition to the overtime rule changes. But we got some news that came up, man, and go ahead and let them know because you broke it to me.
Yeah, so breaking news, Tampa Bay Buccaneers head coach Bruce Arians, he decided to hang it up. And so for the meantime, Todd Bowles will be basically the interim right now. I don't think as of yet they are well actually Arians, he's retired from head coach position, but he's gonna move into the front office. So he's actually moving up. He's just moving off the sideline. And like I say, Todd Bowles, he will so far take the head coaching spot right now, the interim. Maybe he'll be permanent since it's still in the off season. So who knows? By the time the regular season starts, they may give him that title in full. But so far, he will be taking care ownership of the head coaching duties, while Bruce Arians, again, he is retired and he will be moving up to the front office. So this is big news to me because Bruce Arians was one of the main, Bruce Arians and the GM, the main ones in communication with Tom Brady to bring Brady out of retirement to come back and play for the Bucs for another year. So I guess this is news. I don't really know. There was never nothing mentioned from what I've known about Arians thinking about walking away from the sidelines, or even Arians just thinking about moving up into the front office. So this is a completely shocking. I mean, like I said, I just got the notification pop up on my phone, and he just said he's retired as head coach. So yeah, so new breaking news. Yeah, it's big. I'm curious how it's going to be. How it's going to affect the Bucs. You know what? With Aaron's personality, he's not as, how I want to say it. You remember Tom Coughlin?
Oh yeah,
he was real strict.
Sergeant.
Aaron's is not like that. He is a more players coach, but he kind of also has that strict, no nonsense, I should say.
Yeah,
no nonsense. That's how that whole thing with him and Antonio Brown happened when he ended up starting off the field line. That personality here is no nonsense. So it looked like I just got another notification right now. So Todd Bowles has been promoted to head coach.
Okay.
So as of now, I guess Todd Bowles now is the new head coach to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's going to be interesting to see how Bowles and Brady personality class as far as him now as the head coach. I know Brady probably works more with Leftwich anyway.
Yeah, but he probably does. And only thing, I have some thoughts where it's just like, it's the NFL, and I'm just, the older I get, the more like I think of things, and I hope that they are positive steps for certain things. But I will say this, as Todd Bowles being a black man, you don't always get that second job. And that staying at the Jets has stuck with him, and especially being a defensive coach, it's tough because everybody wants the coach that's an offensive guy that's going to call the plays or be heavily involved with the offense, and the defensive coaches get looked at as the meathead kind of guys, and they just everything is passion, and they want to have a ball control type of offense. And so Black Man Unfiltered, I was about to say that, like, that's the only thing I'm worried about is, like, I'm glad that Todd Bowles got the job, but does this mean, because the main person saying it's going to be 5 first-round picks for Tom Brady. Well, if Tom Brady is available because Bruce Arians is in the front office, and then does that leave Todd Bowles holding the bag like, okay, well, you got Mike Evans, you got these other weapons, you got this defense, you got to win, and then in 2 years he's fired. So I hope that's not the situation. I hope it's a case where it's like an actual legitimate deal. And then also, if they do trade Brady, what does this do to Leftwich? Because one of the knocks on him was, he was getting coach. He had Tom Brady, his coaching, even though that didn't matter for guys like Adam Gase, any guys like that, Adam Gase or the coach that got fired up in Chicago, Matt Nagy. It didn't matter for him that you had Andy Reid on board, and the offense did well, and you saw it sputtered in Chicago. So I'm just hoping for those two guys, they're able to thrive in the position they are now, and in Leftwich's case, get a head coaching job. I will about Brady going to Miami. With this happening, I'll believe that, because you can't tell me he was like champion for him to come back. We're going to do this, that, and the third. Heard the Bucks were in the move and in the mix of trying to make some things happen in the quarterback market, and then Tom Brady comes back. So these conversations had to happen at some point. And then we know this is the owners' meetings week, for this to come down during the owners' meeting when they're trying to push the stuff of diversity, with some of the stuff I don't care for, with putting women, the Rooney Rule will be satisfied now if you interview a woman. And it's just like, okay, like it needs to be separate categories. If you want to put women in the coaching ranks, you have to hire women and, interview some black men, legitimate interviews, because they did away with it has to be a face-to-face interview, which goddamn, it should have been that.
Yeah.
It's kind of, I'm wondering if it's some diversity and inclusion type of situation going on.
That's because since you brought up diversity, remember, this is Bruce Arians.
Yes.
If you look at Bruce Arians' coaching staff, Bruce Arians, you might as well call him, well, besides what Tomlin just did, but Bruce Arians, as far as diversity, exactly. I believe last season, I know the Super Bowl winning season, I think all of his assistant coaches or whatnot, were they all black?
I think he might have had a black DC, a black offensive coordinator. I think he had a woman on staff.
Exactly. That's like he also had a woman on staff.
So I'm not saying for sure if that's the deal, or the NFL was like, hey, go ahead, because he was old and he was retired before he got this job.
Yeah, like he's been a trendsetter on that. He's been a trendsetter on diversity in the head coaching ranks, and I think because like I say, he's moving up. Yeah, moving up. He's like, okay, Todd Bowles, make him head coach now. Now you have another black head coach deserving another chance.
Definitely.
And while he's going up to the front office.
So yeah.
I think since you brought that up, I wouldn't be surprised, because looking at the resume of Arians and his coaching staff hires, and diversity is in all caps when it comes to him, I would not be surprised if this move was definitely related, because, in the beginning of the offseason, it was real. The spotlight at the time when Brian Flores made his lawsuit, it was real about the lack of minority and black head coaches, as in the NFL. And I would not be surprised if Bruce Arians did this move to help that. Because if you look at his resume, when it comes to hiring minorities, this dude is pretty much at the top of the pack.
Yeah, you know what? When you put it like that, that's what I'm saying. I'm being cautiously optimistic about it, and he does have a track record, so I hope it's that. I hope it's a genuine thing. I hope Brady sticks it out, has a good season, so Ty can have a winning season on his record as a coach, and he can move forward, and they can get their plans as far as the next quarterback. Maybe Byron Leftwich can step up, and because that's the thing that they keep talking about, diversity amongst the coaches. Hey, bro, like you don't really let black coaches have a coaching tree. There's essentially maybe two coaches with a coaching tree. And Dennis Green, I'm not sure if he was a part of one. Was he a part of that West Coast tree? Or did he have his own? But Donnie Dungy is the only one I can look to. It's just like, look, you can tell from his tree that was, Tomlin came from that tree, as well as, I'm not sure about Pep Hamilton, but I know I'm trying to think of the coach that was with the Lions. His name just escapes me right now.
Caldwell? Jim Caldwell.
We know for sure it came from that tree and had some success. And it's just kind of like, hey man, if you hire more and you let there be a black quality control coach, a black position coach, and then so you hire them up. And a lot of the other thing is, because they kind of cut the faucet off on black coaches as far as offensive jobs. When you're not saying defensive jobs, you're eliminating a lot of potential candidates that are black. And I feel like coaching is leadership. We hire a lot of offensive coaches. That's the trend, but a lot of them get fired. There's no trend going down from offensive coaches to that. And everyone loves to talk about the fact that offensive coaches are needed and they call plays and they're so vital. Who's the coach of the Bills? Could have sworn he's a defensive coach. And y'all love Josh Allen. bro, offensive coordinators and play callers can be replaced. If you have a strong head coach in mind, he can't find other talented people. And it's just kind of like this not, but that also leads to the type of thinking in the NFL where you get a guy that his measurables aren't perfect, but his film is great, and then another guy who had a fast 40, and you get some organizations like, we're gonna take him, and that's that same type of thinking. Y'all not thinking with, look at what you see, interview the guy, see what he thinks of the game plan, see what type of assistance he's going to be able to get, or see even the ones he's interested in. Because if you have a big job, and you get it, you would be able to attract people. But a lot of the jobs that black head coaches get, they're not this job. So I'll double back on what you said.
Like Cully in Houston,
bro.
The way he got fired, that's one thing. Me personally, I thought he should have never been head coach to begin with because he just been a coach for an assistant. And there's nothing wrong with being a lifer coach. Hey, bro, you get to a point where sometimes you see where a guy's like, oh, he's just a career assistant. He's not really cut out to be a head coach. You know, you've seen, some white coaches get that. But it's like, like Kiffin. Coach Kiffin of the Tampa 2. He just wasn't really a head coach. His son ended up being a defensive coordinator.
Yeah, he was just a coordinator, and that's fine. Like Cully wasn't that. Like, bro, he was like in his
with Cully, he wasn't a coordinator, and the way they did it, man. The fact I never heard when he said that. One, like I said, I didn't believe he should have been head coach to begin with, but at the beginning of the whole Watson scandal, they threw him out there, and he just got hired. So he didn't have no knowledge of what happened with Watson. He got hired Monday. They throw him out in front of the media on Tuesday with no knowledge of it, and they had him answer the questions. So he was like a deer caught in the headlight. The way he was answering the questions. He's like, what is this dude doing? Yeah, and then on the sideline, he had the GM and somebody else in his ear during the football game.
It's like the way they do black coaches, and then like the Texans, like you want to root for, those black men so they don't just get totally just embarrassed, but you don't want to root for that organization because it's like, bro, until y'all do things right, I don't want to rock with you. Like you look at the way you handled your business, and like as far as them and the coaching staff, that's just another indictment of how bad they let that organization go, even though now they're actually in position. If they were competent, if Caserio, which a lot of people
I gotta see.
Huh?
I gotta see. Like you said, they got something going on as far as all these draft picks.
Yeah, but are you?
Just because draft picks don't make you successful, I gotta see what he gonna do with these draft picks.
Definitely gotta see what they gonna do with it. But I know we touched on the hearings and the coaching diversity. But how you feel about that overtime rule? If y'all don't know, they announced earlier this week that the overtime rule for the playoffs will be each team getting a possession. And I know I could go all day, so I'll say real quick, I don't think it's necessary. This is the professional football league. This is not college. There should not be every team gets a possession. Look, they changed it enough to where, hey, and I will say this, if you drive down and kick the field goal, you get an opportunity to get the ball too. So it's essentially that. The rule is don't give up a touchdown. So you mean to tell me that a professional defense, tired or not, they do take a break during overtime, and then they get the ball. You can't get a stop to force them to kick a field goal? I mean, I just don't agree with it that it's needed, and it's the situation. People were like, well, we get more football. Yeah, but as we saw from other sports leagues, the longer you play overtime, the more higher of a chance that, hey, guys can get hurt. And what's to say that, hey, Josh Allen were to be able to get the ball back, and he gets the ball back and he throws a touchdown. What if you get ended like that guy hurt against the Patriots? Now he's messed up and he's compromised for the conference championship because there's still a game next week. And that's the thing that sometimes fans get in the moment of the game. And I feel like they changed it just for, what happened with the Bills, and they were an ascending team and a really, really good team. But I just don't think it was necessary because essentially, the playoffs become, they become sudden death once each team had a possession anyway, if both teams scored a field goal or neither team scored. So there was really no need for it. So how did you feel about it, Shawnee?
To me, if you think about all the recent, there's been several in the past 5 seasons, the recent rule changes, they basically all been to they basically all end up diminishing the value of the defensive player. So when it comes from all the rule changes of protecting the quarterback, you barely touch them, they get a flag. You got the rule changes of hitting defenseless receivers. You have to make them do whatever they will qualify as a football move before you can touch them. So now the overtime rule, well, basically, because it happened in the playoffs and because it happened to one of the young stars in Allen, before it happened to Mahomes when they lost against the Patriots, when he never touched the ball in overtime, when the first chance he almost had a chance to go to the Super Bowl. But yeah, the dudes on the defensive side, you pay offensive players, defensive players, and special teams players. But it looks like all the rules they've been changing so far, and NFL will say they're doing it for the fans. Well, yeah. I've learned a long time, man. You can't always listen to the fans.
No,
because now it's like you've taken away just the value of the defense. Now you're seeing offensive players, they know their value now, especially with all the recent rule changes. Now that's why you're seeing all these defensive players getting these old record-breaking contracts, and you know their value is increasing. Meanwhile, defensive players, it's just like how much can you stack the cards against them? You already got all these rules, and you even had that one where they tried to listen to the fans too much in that whole Rams Saints playoff game, and then they tried to install that pass interference rule that only worked for one season because it was terrible because they never wanted to turn over a call.
They never want to overturn that call. Now that's the only thing I will say. I do really love college football as well, but I love the NFL more. I think college gets it right with the, hey man, it needs to be 15 yards for a PI max. It doesn't need to be a spot foul, because then you get those times where they're like literally throwing it up, knowing it's not a good chance, but because the game is so heavily tilted towards the offense. That's something I think they could change defensively to help out the defenders. And please believe, you mentioned about them contracts. The defense, I see him back. He said, "Wait a minute." Hey, I knew he was coming when we mentioned them Saints, but they should definitely change that rule and tinker it, because I know money-wise, the contracts are going to shift. Gambling money is coming, and guys are definitely going to start getting paid on the defensive side of the ball. Like a Michael Parsons is definitely, when his deal is up, he's going to be one of them guys. He's the highest-paid football player, and so I won't say it's the worst rule, but it's to me, I feel like it's leaning into a bad direction. Just like going into the 17th game is a bad direction, and the players can't see it. Hey, bro, y'all about to play 3 preseason games and 17 regular season games for a total of 20. And bro, the owners, in the next negotiations, if they don't step up to the plate, it's going to be 18 regular season games, 2 preseason games, and then teams will have a controlled practice or 2. Those 2 preseason games will basically, almost be for, the special team guys and the guys that really need some working their way back from injury and stuff. And then it's going to be 18 games. And that's just, less is more at times. And then, less is more with the playoffs. I think, like, it really doesn't happen that much. Like, there are times where teams literally come out and do get stops, and then it's a situation where a field goal does win it. Or you get, a defensive play that happens. So it's like, it is what it is. It's like they got their wish. Each team gets the possession. It should not happen in the regular season. It's like, look, it's something that doesn't affect the game as much as people think it does. And it's just that when that's the last thing you saw, that's the first thing you think of. And
it was a clip. I wish I can pull up a clip of Mike Tomlin at the owners meeting, and they asked him about, well, this was before they actually established the rule, but they asked him, hey, how would you feel like if the overtime rules changed? And I think the very next day, they talked about it and they voted yes real quick. But he was like, he's a advocate of the old school. He's not, he's all about sudden death.
Yeah.
And I know for a long time that was just overtime in the NFL, sudden death. I remember it was a big deal when they said, okay, both teams now can have a chance to get the ball in overtime. Because sudden death was alive so long.
Yeah.
And, so you just, nowadays they're trying to get the ball to both offense have a chance. Back then, you just get the kicking and field goal position and the game will be over.
But as far as listening to the fans, I think it's going to come to a point to where eventually there are some fans that want more defense. And so if that crowd gets big enough, we'll see how listening to the fans, because offense does push ticket sales.
I'll be one of them, man, because it reminds me going to college football in the Big 12. And them boys, they defense is literally stay in the locker room. Yeah, them boys just score up and down the field. I'm like, this is not exciting football.
But I think it's come at a time now, and even if mentioned in college, it comes to a point to where the only way you're going to be able to do it is changing some rules, because nowadays, basically, I tell like my friends out of town, they're like, oh, I don't like this type of defense. I was like, bro, whatever your base defense is, doesn't matter. Or you're running a 4-2-5 60% of the game. There are 2 pass rushers on the outside. There's 2 interior guys. There's 2 linebackers and 3 corners and 2 safeties. That's what you're rolling with. That's why you get guys that, if you look at it now, like my little brother doesn't play football, unfortunately, but you see guys that, hey man, it's about playing receiver. It's about playing, and if you can't good enough receiver, they're gonna put you at corner. Because we need guys to cover them. We need athletes to cover them. You're even seeing safeties now. So it is what it is as far as, hey man, guys are moving away from running back, because you see what happens to them. Like you get love as a young player, because it's tough to throw a lot. So the running back is gonna get love. Once by the time you get to middle school, it's about the guy throwing the ball and catching it, and then you need somebody to defend them. So the game is just shifting that way. And you they used to critique the Big 12, rightfully so. But now if you look at the SEC and any other league, hey, bro, it's you got to get some stops, but you need a quarterback. Like, you got to have a quarterback. You got to move the ball, because that's the way the game is shifted now. And so I'm an offensive guy, but I do like seeing great defenders and people being in position to compete. I love that, because that's,
Now, here we just got Black Man was able to help us get the footage of Tomlin's comments about what he thought about the NFL overtime rule change. Like I say, at this time, it's right before the rule became established. But go ahead, Black Man. Let's hear what he had to say.
He preferred it stayed the way it was.
I'm a traditionalist. I don't want to have to stand in front of my team at the most significant moment in the game and explain to them how and why it's different, or to remind those guys of the rules. And so the more closely that we can remain to continual football, I'm going to be in alignment with that. When you start talking about rule changes and the way that the game is played structurally based on that time period, that's probably when I get quiet and move away from the discussion.
Hey,
yeah, so I'm with Tomlin, man, because right now, football and baseball at least have the opportunity. They're doing a whole lot of rule tweaking themselves over there, but at least they have a minor league system where they'll kind of test it over there before they'll bring it to the majors. With football, they just put it right there in the NFL. Yeah, and it's kind of like they testing it, and it's like, why y'all keep doing all these rule changes? It comes to the point now you're gonna keep tinkering, because you already it's extremely one-sided now. Talking about the whole offense defense thing, so it's just like, I don't think it's a good look. And like I say, you paying dudes on both sides of the ball, so they have to perform. But if you're gonna keep giving, just leaning the scales over to the offense, now it's to the point where forget leaning on the scales. It's flat out advantage to the offense side of the ball.
I will say that the Tomlins of the world, and it sucks, because when you get in that room, the owners meeting, how many defensive head coaches are there? It's Tomlin, and it's Tomlin,
everybody else,
it's Bill. And we talk about, as far as strong names, those are the only 2 that come off the top of the head where it's just like, well, they respect it. And then everyone else.
Add Todd Bowles to the room now.
And you can definitely add Bowles to the room. So you got 3 ones from teams that have success that are relevant, and then everyone else, and then you have McDermott from Buffalo. You know, his name is growing. So you got 4, and then you got everybody else, you know, a lot of offensive guys. And so I figured, I think it would be happy to have some more defensive influence, because I like the way the NFL is progressing in certain things in regards to when you see the commercial where they're using the technology to be like, hey, or like, you know, hey, this guy's not feeling good, take him out. Like McCarthy gets a lot of crap, as he should. Well, I can see that in Hard Knock was like he was looking at the monitors like, hey, get such and such out, get Zeke out. Like, nah, he's got a lot of carries. Go on, sit down, because you're trying to manage the guys and keep them healthy in a game where they're making collisions for a living. So I respect that as far as that game progressing that way. But I do think they need to have some things even killed. And, you know, that's something that hopefully if fans such as yourself, you know, let them know, and maybe, you know, the players speak out enough and get more authority and power within their players union, which is a whole show in itself. You know, it could finally happen. But so I did want to say, I'm trying to get some more information. I haven't been able to see anything. Have you seen anything else as to why, you know, Arians went up to the front office?
Not as of yet. I'm pretty sure they probably talking about it on SportsCenter as we speak right now. Probably when we get off, I'll probably take a peek at it and see, get more details. I'm pretty sure I'll learn something new by tomorrow. But yeah, as of now, it's just all I know is just the whole breaking news standpoint of it. But like I say, yeah, at the time, it's a complete shock as far as there was just like no build up, no rumors or anything about him wanting to leave the head coach position. And because he was so influential of bringing back Brady, I was like, oh, okay, they're going to try to run it back. So now they're going to have – that was the biggest thing the Bucs had last season was injuries.
Yeah.
Okay, now, you know, everybody healthy. Let's give it one more chance. I don't know how long Brady will be back. If Brady win one more Super Bowl, he probably retire again right there on the spot.
He might. But what I was reading from Ian Rappaport of NFL Network, he put out a tweet. He said Tom Brady comes back to the Bucs and he knows they'll be good. He said rather than have Bros take over a bad team or one in transition, said he chooses now to pass it off. Arians made sure Bowles will coach a good team. And I'm like
it goes back to what we were saying about Arians and the diverse. Arians, he is cognizant of that. And I think this move is just another example of that. Like that dude, he is really he's a first class dude, and he is real like head of the pack as far as diversity. Literally probably more than any other head coach in the NFL right now, including black head coaches.
Yeah, he definitely one that you got to give him his props on. And I still say salute to. I know that was a lot of heat from the Rooneys. I mean, they literally made the Rooney Rule after them. But props to them for signing off on bringing in Flores. That's suing the league.
I saw a comment of that from Tomlin why he brought in Flores, because he wanted to. I believe he said he wanted to keep Flores, make sure he was by him to let him know that, you know, Flores has somebody in his corner. Something around that nature. It was a reason why he brought Flores. Of course, Flores is an excellent coach, but there's a reason why he brought Flores back.
Hey, bro, he playing, bro. He trolling.
Jerry ain't going nowhere. Jerry got to worry about this pending child case he got going on right now.
That boy trolling.
But speaking one last thing, I guess I save it. I save it towards the end. I save it towards the end because I want to get to you know, kind of switch it off for sports a little bit. Cause I want to get to that whole Will Smith, Chris Rock thing at the end. But that'd be our dismount.
Man. So did you see it live?
Nah, I have no idea what the Oscars. Most of the movies they talk about, 99% of them I didn't watch.
Yeah, and that's the craziest thing is it covered up the fact that I love King Richard. You don't always get the black man, get the black sports father. Like, I know it's related. I'll get off of it real quick. Do you remember Myron Rolle, the Rhodes Scholar?
Oh, yeah.
One of the things of him was he got a bad rap because they was like, oh, his dad. He won't. I was like, bro, this is like a 4 or 5 star athlete going to Florida State, and he's really intelligent. What do you mean his dad is there? Like, it's never looked at that way for Archie. It's never looked at that way for the other dads of white fathers. But it's kind of like that always gets victimized. Like, oh, he's too meddling. He's peddling. No, it's his son's life. You get one shot in this thing. So it's like, yeah. So I'm glad he got his flowers for that. I was surprised to see it because I was like, y'all playing. This is, and then when I saw the video tag, I was like, oh, that really happened? I was like, what the hell? And so when I saw it, I was like, oh, okay. Was it staged? And I've seen people break it down. It's to the point on Twitter, I muted certain words, but I'm still seeing the shit. So it didn't work because people are using other words and sharing it. And, of course, everybody, bring up, the other situation. And like me and my friends were talking about it on IG Live. Hey, bro, we didn't see August in this type of situation. That man heard what Chris Rock said and went to handle it. Now, I don't think the joke was funny. The joke was I hadn't heard the joke. All I seen was the slap. I heard the joke and I was like, hey, bro, that's funny. But that wasn't like that much to get into it about. So like either the shit had been building up in the last, year or so that you've been
there has to be something in the back end of that.
It had to be that, or you was trying to get people to tune in and talk about the Oscars. Because I don't even stuff that I'm heavily involved in, I don't watch award shows like anymore.
Me neither.
Like, I don't watch the NFL award shows. I'll watch a draft, but I won't watch the NFL honors. I don't watch the NBA honors. I don't watch, anything as far as honors, the college football. I don't watch any of that anymore. For whatever reason, I don't, it's just like, okay, I'll figure out on Twitter what happened.
Yeah, you can see the results afterwards. That's all. You just really care about the results.
Yeah, because when you give me something like that in the middle of it, if you give me something like that every year, then yeah, I might watch because that's crazy. I'm not expecting Will Smith to just come up and slap the shit out of Chris Rock. Like,
I don't know. I don't know because in the back end of that whole Oscars was actually produced by Will Packard.
Wow.
In the back end. So, but when I saw it, I'm like, dude. I guess to me, because I know a lot of people, the people who was for Will doing it, he was doing it basically in the name of his wife. You should be talking about his wife and this disease she got going on. Now, me personally, I don't know if Rock knows about her condition.
Yeah.
I don't know. If he do, okay, now comedians, I didn't think the joke, because I actually, a show on the radio I was listening to, it was Chris Rock talking about, I believe it was in 2018, Will and Jada, they actually boycotted.
Yeah.
Because Will didn't get nominated for, I think he did Concussion. And Chris Rock actually did a joke about Jada back then, and he got on her a whole lot harder than he did this past weekend. He brought up the fact that how can you boycott something that you wasn't even invited to? He jumped all on her, and now Will and Jada had an issue with it then, but they obviously didn't slap the dude then. But the joke he told about her back then was worse than what he had this past Sunday. But to me, and getting ready to wrap it up, but to me, I always look at it like, and just with anything, I believe that there's a time and place for everything.
Yeah.
And then there's some people who are just more impulsive. Whatever they feel at the time, they will do whatever right there on the spot. But and in this case, as far as with Will, you go up there slapping Chris Rock. Now you basically took the whole attention off the award show. Now everybody's just talking about the slap.
Yeah.
You even won the main award, and they didn't talking about you winning that award. They're still talking about the slap. And how now the Oscars are investigating or whatnot into this, and then how everybody is talking about it, even fellow comedians, how they speaking up about it.
Every comedian was live. At that night, every comedian went live, from Ryan Davis He had like 4 comedians in there with him, like everybody, just so many comedians going live and they created content. When I seen that, it still makes me think, hey, bro, this might have been something to drum up some more attention to the Oscars. And it could have been something, like you said, the joke from 18. It could have been that. And so it's just like, it's hard to tell. But I was kind of at the point where it's like, I've listened to some talk about it. And I'm talking right now on our podcast, but it's just like, hey man, I beat that horse to death quick.
Like, yeah, they beat that thing. I was tired about that. What was that? That happened Sunday. I was tired about that by Monday evening.
Yeah,
it reminded me of all the stuff I had to listen to when Aaron Rodgers going through his thing in football and how they blew that thing out of proportion. So they draw all the attention they got from this slap. You know, at the time, you know, like I said, I thought, you know, you can you know, protect your wife's name without getting physical with somebody, because if you decide to do that, then you got all this residue you got to deal with afterwards. Yeah. Now you over there boo-hooing while you getting your acceptance speech, apologizing, all this stuff. You know, even if because he was already on the front row. You know, if you just would have yelled out, "Hey, keep my wife's name out your mouth," hey, that'd been cool. Everybody just has an issue with the slap. Now the people who on the other side saying, you know, he's defending his wife. It's like, I guess when they say that you have, you know, he could have handled it better, they make it look like that the other side is you okay with somebody disrespecting your wife. I'm like, no, it's not it. It's just a way of go about stuff. You know, like I say, they more impulsive. They feel a certain need, they gonna handle it right there. What's that? Shoot first, ask questions later. And then they deal with the residual, and then you don't know what the backfire can be from that. So if you handle it better, you can still be upset. Definitely. You know, but that don't mean you're going to go up. And lucky, I guess it was Chris Rock. Because there were some other, especially a black comedian. I mean, I'm over here listening to Corey Holcomb. He over there disrespecting his wife all type of ways.
Yeah, it could have went real left, man. But you know, I mean, that's all we got for you tonight, man. I will dismount with this. I know I want it to happen so bad, but I hope Coach K loses. I'm tired of it. Tired of it, bro. I'm tired of it. Let's get them on out of there. Like I miss the days where they were universally hated, and like I miss them days. And like now it's just like they still get on my nerves, but I'm ready for him to leave and just. So I'm thinking I'm hoping they win. Hoping when we talking next week, they lost and we not just getting showered with all this Duke love, man.
You ready to put them Jordan tails on Coach K's face?
What'd you say?
You ready to put them Jordan tails on Coach K's face if he lose?
Man, ready. I'm ready to see it, man. I'm ready to see all of it, man. I'm ready them to get beat so bad they try to come back for next year, man. But man, this is Black Man Unfiltered Network. It's the 1-on-1 Sports Show, man. That's all we got for you. We'll see you guys next week.
All right, y'all. Peace.